outrage and don't hear no public cry about sending young men and women where empires go to die. We lost people and treasure in Vietnam, and there still ain't no upside. We're doing the same in a no-win game where empires go to die. It's a new world order agenda with a demonic rising tide. They want America's soul in a deep dark hole where empires go to die.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, wants to give a big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show. Night Dreams Talk Radio Network brings you the World Paranormal News with James Creechbaum. Now, the latest news.
I'm James Creechbaum with the Paranormal and World News. Scientists plan an Arctic climate lockdown underneath the ice to get data on what's going on with the climate changes. Now, more than 300 scientists from 19 nations are engaged in a planned 2 to 3 month stint locked in polar ice on the German icebreaker over the winter. Now, researchers face constant darkness, frigid temperatures plunging to minus 45 degrees Celsius, and the threat of hungry polar bears near their research camps. Hopefully they can find something out to help with the climate change. Now, a company promises to make robot clones of anyone you like, even dead relatives. Now, this company, again, any dead relative, all you need is a picture, and I guess they can make robots clones that look just like them, anybody that you want. It's breaking science, or record-breaking science, so to speak. Also, did you know that when you leave Earth, say you leave Earth at age 15 in a spaceship at the speed of light, and spend 5 years in space, when you get back on Earth, you will have aged 20 years old, but all your friends who were 15 when you left will be 65 years old at that time. What a difference time makes. Also, it requires 7 to 8 trees to provide enough oxygen for just one person per year. That's something to think about with all these fires that's going on. Also, the rarest type of blood on Earth has been called the golden blood. This blood type is so rare that only 43 people on Earth have ever reported to have it. And there are only 9 active donors, and it's the RHNULL, RH-Null. Also, a giant telescope to join the search for alien life. Now, the world's largest filled aperture radio telescope is about to start operating after several years of testing. Known as the 500-meter aperture spiritual telescope, or FAST for short, the new observatory, which is situated in southern China, has a diameter of 1,600 feet and a cost of $180 billion to build. And that's going to be going off real soon. Also, Earth's magnetic north is shifting at an unprecedented rate of 30 miles a year, throwing satellite positioning data and navigation systems off course. Now, the magnetic North Pole is the wandering point of the surface Earth's northern hemisphere, and it's moving at a very fast rate towards Siberia. Now, this is it's really moved up way faster than it has been on the average over the last few years, so it's really throwing things out of whack. Next news break, tomorrow night.
Good evening, or morning, depending on your time zone. From the Pacific to the Atlantic to you worldwide. Get yourself a cup of Java and find a comfy, easy chair and get ready for Gary and his guest on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. And now, here's Gary.
And it is After Dark, and I hope everybody this year is going to have a great Christmas. I tell you what, the prices of stuff, I tell you, it's really crazy that the prices of merchandise this year is probably the lowest for like TVs I've ever seen. My one son went out and bought, well, one of my sons bought a TV, a 50-inch or 54-inch for like $169. Then my other son just went out and bought a 50-some-inch TV for $149. Totally crazy. Electronics this year is probably about the cheapest I've ever seen it. Anyway, we're talking to Tom Davis. He sings in the group Metatron Power and Light. You hear the music every night here on Night Dreams Talk Radio. You know, you can see what he looks like, and you can see the rest of the members of the band just by going to our website, Night Dreams Talk Radio. Go to www.nightdreamstalkradio.com or just type in Night Dreams Talk Radio and then click on it. You'll see our website. Scroll down, you know, and there they are. Well, Tom, we're back with you.
By the way, Val is better looking than the rest of us.
I have to admit, she's a very attractive woman. And her voice, I just love her voice. I think James does, too. I think he's infatuated with it, but don't tell him I told you that.
Okay, I won't tell him.
I love all your songs.
But, you know, for other people out there, if they're being abused by a member of their family, any member, you know, daughter, husband, wife, son, cousin, what should they do? I mean, should you wait and think it's going to stop, or do you make the plunge right away? I know that I've told my wife for years now, you know, we got to put a stop to it. She didn't do it. Now, I'll be honest with you, Tom, talking to her the last couple of days, now the house is quiet. There's no screaming. You know the embarrassment when you go to the grocery store and you see the neighbor? Now, we live on like 2 acres, and 1.5 acres of it is all cedar trees. Right. But you know what? They can still hear. You know, my one son doesn't comprehend. Just because you can't see anybody because of the trees doesn't mean they don't hear.
Sound carries.
Yeah, and so, you know, they actually have, you know, said things to my wife or my other son. What's going on in your house? Is everybody okay? It's embarrassment to have to go through for year after year after year. And this would be like every day or every other day event, sometimes a couple times a day. Well, the other day I mentioned to my wife, I said, you know, it's quiet around the house now. You know, my wife she's into birds. So we have some birds, you know, like a macaw and some parrots and stuff like that. The big bird was always screaming when he was here because he would go hit it because it would make a noise like a bird would do. The bird associated, he's home, the bird would squawk. It just, you know, it was horrible. It's quiet now. And my wife finally admitted to me she loves it. And I said, well, you know, do you want him back? And she goes, no, I don't want him back.
Well, number one, no, you, in my opinion, I think you've suffered enough, both you and your wife. It gets to a point where, like I said, there are spiritual reasons for this, there are physical reasons for this, but the bottom line is that you don't have to tolerate that in your life. This kid's 26 years old, and he's not a kid, he's an adult. I think that you've done everything reasonably, humanly possible, and I don't think you should feel one bit of guilt, because the only way that this kid is ever going to amount to anything is through bootstrap. He's going to have to basically realize that nobody out there owes him anything, and he's going to have to, you know, whether or not he ever comes to that conclusion remains to be seen. But you're not going to be able to save him. Your wife can't save him. The counselors aren't going to save him. You know, the doctors can't save him, and the lawyers can't save him. The judges can't save him. He's going to have to do it himself, but he's going to have to become conscious enough to realize that number one, he has a serious problem, and number two, he's arrogant and he has an attitude, and that's not your fault, nor is it your wife's fault.
You're right. You know, and I'll be honest with you, it's blissful now. It is. For the past week, I have not experienced how nice it is. You know,
isn't that kind of bliss a really wonderful thing when you can actually come into your home and it's quiet and you don't have to be in fear, and it's just a good place to be. And I can tell you this, I remember getting threatened, and I had to take the firearms that I had, and I had to take them to the police department and lock them up in my wall locker because I was afraid to come home and say, what's new?
Yeah. Were you scared of your life at any point ever?
I got concerned. I mean, he would say, yeah, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And it's like, I got tired of listening to that when he was 16. And so, he came out one day and said, you know what, I'm not going to repeat exactly what he said, but he basically said that he was going to beat me up. And he took a swing at me, and what I did was I sidestepped him. I put it in a carotid artery hold, and while he was getting ready to pass out, I whispered in his ear, you're not going to do anything to anybody, and I deal with 16-year-old kids every day of the week. And I said, now I'm taking you to your room, and you will stay there for at least an hour, and when you come out, you will be civil. You get to the saturation point. I mean, I'm sure some of your listeners are probably going to think that I was excessive, but when you're dealing with it day after day, month after month, you get really tired of it. And fortunately, I don't have to deal with that kind of stuff anymore. And I'm glad that you don't. But you reach your saturation level, and I reached mine.
Yeah, because I hate to say it, I'm frustrated. Because the way law enforcement handles things, the situation where, it's just they brush it off. They don't want to be involved, but they let you know after they've been to your house, let's say over a 3-year period, 10 times, they don't really want to come to your house, and they let you know that, and they start, you can see that. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing, but what I'm trying to tell people out there, if you are having a problem, domestic violence with any member of your family, you can get help. I should have done it a long time ago. I just didn't have the guts to do it. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't have the guts to do it this time. It took one of my sons and my granddaughter, to press charges and deal with it because I was scared to. Because of my...
Can I say something
go
positive
ahead.
Regarding that? I think it's wonderful that you had a granddaughter and a son that finally stepped in, and they did that because they love you, Gary. That they weren't trying to be mean and they weren't trying to be nasty. They did that because they loved you, and they knew that you were being abused, as was your wife. So, I applaud them. I think that's showing love. That's showing tough love. And good for them. Kudos.
No, I realize it now. At the time, I wasn't so sure about it. But as each day passes, I mean, it feels like my life is, started over. I mean, the stress I was going through was horrible. And not just me. It's a lot of people out there, Tom. It's going through what I went through. And
there are a lot of them.
And
there are a lot of them, Gary, and you and I know that, and I know that especially having been a cop for 23 years. I've had an awful lot of people that have told me an awful lot of horror stories about the stuff that they put up with because they thought that they were doing the right thing. They thought that by spending the thousands of dollars on the counselors and the doctors and the social workers